The city never slept. Yellow cabs sped past the glowing streets of Manhattan. Steam rose from the subway grates, and the air smelled faintly of roasted chestnuts and wet asphalt after rain. Amelia Carter adjusted her coffee cup, rushing down 7th Avenue with her laptop bag swinging by her side. She worked as a junior
editor at Harper and West Publishing, one of New York's most competitive publishing houses. Dream job that came with sleepless nights and deadlines that could melt anyone's soul. But today was special. Her team was reviewing a new author's first draft, a love story that, ironically, felt more alive than her own love life. As she crossed the street, her heel caught on a crack in the sidewalk, and before she could fall, a firm hand caught her arm. "Whoa there," a calm voice said. "You okay?" She looked up. A tall man in a gray coat, dark hair slightly messy from the wind, stood before her. His blue eyes were kind but sharp, the kind they could read through people. Yeah, she stammered, cheeks burning. "Just the city trying to kill me again. It does that sometimes," he said, smiling. "I'm Ethan Miles." Amelia smiled awkwardly. "Amelia. And thanks for saving me from public embarrassment." They shared a short laugh before parting ways, but for some reason, the moment lingered. The city kept moving, but Amelia's thoughts didn't. That night, while reviewing manuscripts in her apartment, she couldn't stop replaying that instant, the way he looked at her, as if he'd known her for years. Little did she know, that moment, one accidental fall on a busy New York morning, would change everything.
3 days later, Amelia attended a networking event for young professionals at a rooftop bar near Times Square. She wasn't planning to go. She hated small talk and forced smiles, but her best friend, Lily, had practically dragged her out. The lights were soft, the skyline glittered, and jazz music hummed in the background. She was standing near the balcony, sipping ginger ale, when she heard a familiar voice. "You again," Ethan said with a grin. Her eyes widened. "What are you following me now?" "You're the one who almost fell into my arms." "I'd say fate's doing the following." They both laughed, and this time, they really talked. Ethan turned out to be
a freelance photographer, recently back from a 2-year project in Europe. He was passionate, grounded, and disarmingly genuine, qualities rare in a city full of ambition and masks. "I like capturing stories," he said, showing her a few photos on his phone. "People think photography is about faces, but it's really about feelings." Amelia stared at one photo, a little girl chasing pigeons in Central
Park. The joy, the innocence, it was perfect. "You don't just take pictures," she said softly. "You keep moments alive." Their eyes met again. The city lights reflected in hers, and for the first time in months, Amelia felt seen. Winter slowly settled over New York. The trees in Central Park turned into bare silhouettes, and Christmas lights began to sparkle in every shop window. Amelia and Ethan had started seeing each other often, sometimes by plan, sometimes by pure accident. Coffee shops turned into late-night walks, and laughter turned into silence that felt comfortable, not empty. One Sunday, they met at Bryant Park, where the Christmas market buzzed with the smell of cinnamon and laughter.
Ethan handed her a cup of hot chocolate. "Careful," he said. "It's as dramatic as New York weather." She laughed. "So unpredictable and occasionally burned you." "Exactly." They sat on a wooden bench, watching people skate on the ice rink. The air was cold, but something about the moment felt warm. "You know," Ethan said quietly, "I used to hate this city. Too loud, too fast, too fake. And now?" she asked. "Now I can't imagine leaving it." Maybe it's not the city that changed. Maybe it's the people in it. Amelia looked at him, really looked, and felt her heartbeat quicken. She didn't know what this was yet, but it was real. That night, when she came home, she opened her journal and wrote, "Greater than." Maybe love doesn't always start with fireworks. Maybe it starts with a fall and a cup of hot chocolate. Days turned into weeks. They explored the city together, tiny bookshops in Brooklyn, late-night pizza on Fifth Avenue, sunsets over the Hudson River. Ethan often carried his camera, capturing her without her noticing when she smiled at something small or when she looked up at the sky. One evening, as snow began to fall, they stopped near the Brooklyn Bridge. The city skyline shimmered, golden and endless. "This view never gets old," Amelia whispered. "Neither do you," Ethan said softly. She turned to him, surprised. "You can't just say things like that." "Why not? It's true." Their laughter faded, replaced by silence, the kind where words would only ruin the moment. Then, without planning it, Ethan leaned in, and their lips met, gentle and sure, but full of something neither could explain. The sound of the city faded away. For once, all Amelia could hear was her heartbeat. That night, as she lay in bed, she replayed everything, his voice, his touch, his warmth. She hadn't planned to fall in love, but somehow she'd fallen harder than she ever imagined. February came with sharp winds and deadlines. Amelia's life at the publishing house had turned chaotic. Her team was working on a major author launch, and late nights had become the new normal. Her phone buzzed with Ethan's messages, sweet and simple. "Dinner tonight? You okay? Miss your voice."
Sometimes she replied with tired emojis, sometimes not at all. It wasn't that she didn't care. It was just that everything felt heavy. One Friday evening, Ethan showed up at her office. He stood by the glass door, holding takeout and 2 cups of coffee. "Surprise dinner," he said with a grin. "You need real food, not deadlines." Amelia smiled, but exhaustion clouded her face. "Ethan, I can't. I'm swamped. My boss needs the final edits by tonight. You've been saying that all week." His tone softened, but there was something behind his eyes, worrying, maybe hurt. "When was the last time you slept, Amelia? Or talked to me about something that wasn't work?" She sighed. "This is important. You know how hard I've worked for this job. And what about us? You can't just keep running until there's nothing left." That word, less, hit harder than she expected. She looked away. "Please don't make this harder." Ethan exhaled and stepped back. "Okay, but don't lose yourself chasing something that won't hold you when it's 2 a.m. and you can't breathe." He left, and for the first time, the office lights felt too bright, too cold. Days passed. They didn't talk. Not because they didn't want to, but because neither knew how to begin again. Ethan focused on his photography exhibitions. Amelia drowned herself in work. Then came the night of his gallery opening, moments between heartbeats. Amelia didn't plan to go. She told herself she was too busy. But at the last minute, she found herself standing outside the art gallery, heart pounding. The walls inside were filled with photographs, streets, faces, laughter. But one photo stopped her completely. It was her, sitting on a park bench, smiling at something unseen. Her hair was windblown, her eyes half lost in thought. Beneath it was the caption, "She didn't know she was the story." Ethan turned and saw her. Their eyes met. The noise of the crowd disappeared. "You came," he said quietly. "You took that photo," she whispered. "Yeah, you looked happy." Her throat tightened. I am. "When I'm with you," Ethan smiled sadly. "Then don't keep running from what makes you happy." Amelia blinked back tears. "I thought love would distract me from my dreams. But maybe it's what makes them worth chasing." He took her office with coffee and quiet encouragement. Amelia began helping him organize his next exhibition. Love, she realized, wasn't about perfection. It was about presence. Spring came slowly to New York, as if the city itself needed time to heal from winter. The snow melted into silver puddles on the streets. Flowers began to bloom along the sidewalks, and the sky looked softer, as if painted by hope itself. Amelia stood at the corner of 14th Street, clutching her freshly printed book in her hands. Her first book, not someone else's, hers. It wasn't fiction. It was a collection of essays called Moments Between Heartbeats, inspired by Ethan's photo exhibition. It was about love, vulnerability, and the beauty of imperfection. Harper and West had decided to publish it after months of edits and sleepless nights. She smiled, tears stinging her eyes. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was chasing life, she was living it. Then she heard a familiar voice behind her ... That title sounds suspiciously familiar. She turned. Ethan stood there, camera around his neck. A grin that could melt any bad day ... You think I stole it from you? She teased ... Borrowed, he said. But I'll forgive you if you sign my copy. He handed her the book. On the title page, she wrote, "To the man who taught me how to see the story in everything, even in myself." Ethan read it, then looked up, eyes glistening ... You know, he said softly, "I spent so long capturing other people's moments, but with you, I finally want to be in them." Amelia's heart fluttered. The street around them blurred, people rushing, taxis honking, life moving. But in that moment, there was only them. He stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face ... "What are you thinking?" He whispered ... "That I almost lost the best thing that ever happened to me." "You didn't lose it," he said. "You just found your way back."
And then, in the middle of the busy New York street, with sunlight glinting off the glass buildings, and the world spinning around them, they kissed.
Not like the first time, unsure and hesitant, but with the certainty of two people who had finally chosen each other completely. 1 year later, the small cafe near Central Park buzzed with quiet chatter and the smell of fresh coffee. A sign by the door read Cologne ... Book signing Amelia Carter. The story I almost missed. She sat at a table, signing copies, smiling at readers. And every few minutes, her eyes drifted to the man behind the camera, Ethan, capturing her in the soft morning light. When the event ended, he walked up and kissed her for a ... "Proud of you," he murmured. "We did this," she said. Together. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, spilling light over the park. Amelia leaned against Ethan, watching the city wake up ... "Funny," she said softly. "I used to think New York was too fast for love ... Maybe," Ethan said, wrapping his arm around her. "But sometimes, love just runs fast enough to catch you." They laughed. And the city, that wild and kind, beautiful city, seemed to pause for a heartbeat, just long enough for love to breathe.